Hi, I haven't been with you for a while, but we've been talking about a subject at the study house that I think is of paramount importance, especially in light of the things that have been going on in our country, especially in the last few weeks, uh, that we've been personally touched by this. I want us to get three passages or three sets of scripture from the book of Ecclesiastes. I think these verses will explain some things to us, help us to understand, and also help us to kind of get a plan of action, a rough plan of action for the people of God. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Listen to verses 16, 17, and 18. And moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there. Now, the word judgment here means rules, regulations, prescriptions, standards. So we're looking at the place where there is the law, the rule making, the judgment, the rule making, the place where the prescriptions or regulations, the standards are being set. And in that place, he said, he found wickedness. Then he looked at the place of righteousness. Now, we're going to look at that verse, we're going to look at that word in another verse in Ecclesiastes. And in that verse, the same Hebrew word is translated justice. So when you have laws, standards, regulations, when there are either obedience to or the breaking of that law, there's a consequence for that, and the consequences are just or unjust. They are righteous or unrighteous. And so yes, you can have even in the face of law that has not been perverted, you can then have people who do not rightly divide or apply those laws, or they're done with inequity, and so then you can have injustice or unrighteousness. Now I want you to get this thing that God considers unrighteousness to be injustice. We do a lot of crying about justice. Unrighteousness is injustice. Okay, so I looked at the place where there was supposed to be judgment, rules, procedures, standards, and there was wickedness. And I looked at the place where there was supposed to be justice, and rather than justice or righteousness, there was iniquity. Okay, and 17, I said in my heart, God shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there is a time there for every purpose and for every work. I said in my heart concerning the estate of the sons of man, that God might manifest them, that they might see that they themselves are beasts. Okay, a lot of King James language here. Let's see if we can break this down. I'm looking at the I'm saying in my heart that God is a righteous judge. God is going to judge righteously. But what we see is injustice and unrighteousness. And we see that people pervert judgment, and then you get injustice. The only thing you're going to get when you pervert the standard that God has set, the regulation God has set, the thing that will come out of it is injustice. You cannot pull righteousness out of unrighteousness. You either do it the way God says, or you're in out there in left field. So let's get let's get an understanding that once you pull that, you need to understand you may do it. in this world. I had a man tell me the other day he's over 60 years old and he's not seeing justice. And I'm telling you that God is just and he will judge. And there will be righteousness and it will be a righteous judgment. So it may not happen here, but there is a time when it will happen. And there's a reason why God is allowing this to be as it is. Now, I said in my heart concerning the estate of man that God might manifest them and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. Now, what we're going to see as we look further in Ecclesiastes is that you become lower. You lower yourself when you don't obey the standards of God, when you pervert the standards, the regulations that God has set in place. You cannot get justice. You cannot get righteousness. You get injustice. You get unrighteousness. And then you reduce yourself to the level of a beast. You no longer are if you are not living as if you are created in the image of God, which is human, then you are reducing yourself to the level of beast. And we are going to see more and more that people who have purported themselves to be civilized and wonderful and just and kind and loving, if your standard, if you have taken God's standard and perverted it, you are not just. There is not good judgment there, and you will not get justice. You will not get righteousness. It cannot be.